My background's in computer electrical engineering. I went to school at Purdue, and through an internship, I ended up at NASA Johnson Space Center, where I eventually worked as a flight controller for the space shuttle program. It was a super fun experience. I ended up meeting my husband there. He also was a flight controller at NASA. He eventually went to work for Rockwell Automation, and through that, we ended up relocating to Milwaukee. And that was in 1998, and I was trying to figure out what could be a school of space and decided to start a web development company. My husband at Rockwell, he managed their largest data warehouse, their point of sale database with all their distributors. And we ended up realizing we were really kind of uniquely equipped to serve the manufacturing and distribution space. And we developed a niche in working with B2B e-commerce solutions. And so fast forward 9 years ago, my husband left his job at Rockwell, and now he leads our development team. We made the Inc. 5000 list last year. We've seen a lot of exciting growth, and a part of that growth story has been our partnership with Episerver, now Optimizely. We became Episerver partners back in 2014. I'm really excited about this conversation that we have today with Trevor. When I met Trevor, I realized I think we're kind of kindred spirits in that you've got a technical background and just have such an appreciation for the challenges facing this space for manufacturers and distributors who are looking to implement digital. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to learn from your experiences today. Trevor, I'd love for you to introduce yourself.
Cool. Thanks, Lori. Yeah, that's I didn't know the whole background of you and your husband and their Rockwell, and obviously, which is a common manufacturer that we deal with, a lot of distributors as well. So yeah, so I am Trevor Pope. I've been with this platform, now Opti, formerly a couple different names, Insight and Epi, and for about 7 years, I've been doing implementation, integration, data mapping, project management, and solution architecture for this specific platform in the manufacturing and distribution vertical. Previous to that, I've worked on and managed different types of on-site and remote and outside help desks, project management in marketing, technology, databases, and in all sorts of IT services, including space and data centers and servers and hardware and all sorts of stuff. So just a lot of technical in the history, but excited to be here today. Thanks for inviting me.
Let's jump in it. So Trevor, you talk with a lot of people who are in the process of replatforming or starting digital for the first time. What do you see as their common challenges?
Yeah, I mean, when you're replatforming, there's a lot of pressures, whether it's suppliers, it's customers, it's board, internal growth channels that want you to change, and it's a really complex market. There are solutions out there that, software is a different space, right? And really how they're made, how different solutions are architected make a huge difference in what it really means to implement. And it's also not just a point in time, it's about where the software is headed, because in a SaaS world, it's always changing. So in a selection standpoint, it's complex just to make that selection. And there's nuances in different parts of the platform and the implementer that you really need to figure out kind of how you're gonna step through that.
Yeah, I so agree with you. I think about our experiences over the last 20 years that we've been in this space. We've worked with a number of different platforms and obviously a number of different companies who are going through this journey of trying to figure this out. And I think when we talk to companies who have been in business 50 to 100 years and they have traditionally sold through sales teams and trying to figure out what this looks like, this is a very different kind of a purchase than they've ever made before. And even knowing what questions to ask or how they go through the process can be challenging for them. There's just so much to it.
Well, and a lot of times we re-platform from someone who had a custom implementation, right? And that very bespoke features or an ERP bolt-on. And a lot of those are on-premise applications. And in most cases where the market's at today, frankly, a SaaS platform with performance and security and capacity and hosting and all the other stuff, usually that makes the most sense. And most companies, frankly, in the space price so that it makes the most sense as well. It just, especially when you look at total cost of ownership and the resources and really specific resources involved to fully manage these platforms, because they are complex and they're complex for a reason. Customers have a different level of expectation for what you offer online for a reason. And that also means that integration to your backend business systems is key for how you're really gonna handle that. So, there's just a lot to manage too. And like even within an organization, you may have some people who, for different reasons, they want to have on-prem versus SaaS, or want all SaaS versus, where things are gonna sit. And, ultimately there's key business discussions around what makes sense and what's going to happen, but that's where we see the market growing. Even the ERP, frankly, is moving in the cloud more often than being on-prem where it was traditionally, but that hasn't necessarily reached the tipping point where the majority don't have SaaS yet, but the majority are thinking about when they're going to do that. And the ERP companies, frankly, most of them are supporting that migration. I think we're already there in the software side for e-commerce, right?
Yeah.
That market, frankly, is in the cloud, and I think it should be, just based on the dynamic ways in which we as a software company are trying to support our customers and add more features and capabilities all the time.
Yeah, and it's interesting because your earlier point around complexity, like for some time there was, and still you run into people who feel like our business is too complex. There's no way a SaaS product could meet that, and I know we'll hit on that more in terms of how B2B Commerce Cloud does. But I just think that's what's interesting, is that there's been so much innovation in technology, so many new opportunities to leverage products in a way that really lower your total cost of ownership and the amount of work you have to do to get up and running. I'm curious too, Trevor, in terms of challenges, what you see in terms of challenges around organizational adoption.
Yeah, so adoption is always something that, if you don't have adoption at the core, the other business drivers of why you're doing this, whether that's new customer acquisition, it's about retaining existing customers and trying to grow share of wallet. If you don't have adoption, base adoption, then you can't do any of the other things that make transformation worthwhile, that make replatforming and the investment in people and time worthwhile. So the sales organization is one thing we see as key, that having your alignment with, whether it's comp and incentives, but really around, it helps your sales organization deliver better service. That's inside sales, customer service representatives, that's outside sales, that might be channel sales. If you're a manufacturer working with, independent sales reps or manufacturer sales reps or industry sales reps, or your own, they have to buy in and have that organizational, like, yes, this does make my life easier. Yes, I'm going to support this with our customer. And when they're feeling like this helps them personally, and especially your customers, I think that's where you lay the right groundwork for adoption.
Yeah.
And then can see for that's a lot of times what we see just overall, and folks who show up to a sales call, to a demo, to somewhere with either sales has already been represented within their requirements, or a sales leader or someone that ultimately it rolls up to. That's great. I love it when I have a salesperson there because I can ask them questions, frankly, and you can get a more of a feel around how it actually works today.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's such a great point. It's interesting because we work in technology, and yet some of what we're talking about here is cultural, or people, like, is that buy-in that is so important. And in some sense, like digital commerce, I know digital transformation is in some sense like a buzzword, but really it's about thinking like bigger than just the technology in terms of how organizations can leverage and do business in a very different way than they have in the past. So I think that can just require a different way of thinking on the whole. So you referenced it, Trevor. You love it when you have a salesperson on the call with you. That sounds like a way that some organizations are kind of doing the right thing in terms of addressing the challenges. Are there other things that you see organizations who are really addressing those challenges well, what they're doing?
So, that you have broader organizational input and leadership that really supports this, because your e-commerce, your front end presence is not just about e-commerce. It's about self-service. It's about the data. It's about the content that you're showing your customers and really making their lives easier. That typically touches a lot of different points, and there's a lot of change management in the implementation of any of these projects. And that, having the mindset, hopefully, like, again, like if you start smaller and not reinvent everything, but then work through iteration. You get customer feedback, you get salespeople feedback, you don't boil the ocean right away. Usually that helps, but organizational buy-in, if you don't have that just from a project perspective of being able to get this done in people's time and moving it forward, that's super important. So, stakeholder involvement or just empowerment of the team that is actually doing this. And it usually means sales, technology, marketing, or sometimes there's an e-commerce department and leader within that. Usually that's the spread, but also folks that, again, are empowered to make those decisions. And then in flight to run that change management process, don't change too much, but also customers cannot afford to step back in most cases. And sometimes even like something as big and monumental as an ERP replacement, customers are already thinking about, okay, if I swap my ERP, am I going to reintegrate the old e-com or integrate new? And if it's integrate new, you kind of have to coordinate your go lives, right? Because if you have 10% online already, you do not want to drop that channel and disrupt those sales potentially, because they go to somewhere else where it's still easier to do business. And in a generation 2 platform, which lots of companies are in, some are getting generation 3, but most are replatforming in these days existing capabilities. Some can afford, if they're less than 1%, they can afford to shut down that channel for a month or two. But others, they got to coordinate it and really go live.
Yeah, such great points. Like I love the idea of like broad input, certainly like that's something that we too see is like being really key. And also that idea of like not trying to boil the ocean up front. I mean, the danger is sometimes people, have waited a while to make the changes that they want to make. And then they come with this huge list that we need to do all these things day one. And unfortunately, that delays your day one. Then you're not making money and you're not learning. Like there's so much learning that happens once you actually, get a new solution out there and start to learn, to your point, Trevor, in terms of getting feedback from your salespeople and customer service. Yeah, so really great points.
So Lori, I have a question for you, for the audience in regards to our partnership with Optimizely. And so can you speak to why we believe so strongly in the Optimizely B2B Commerce Cloud product?
Why I think it's really compelling is that as a product, the B2B Commerce Cloud has done a great job of really paying attention specifically to the needs of manufacturing and distribution clients and understanding those challenges and also the features and functionality that's really important to them, and created a platform that you can realize a lot of capability that's typically kind of challenging to implement in other scenarios, that you could do it on another platform, but with B2B Commerce Cloud, it's already there through configuration. So there's just been a lot of work to get it to a place where you can have features that much larger companies than you likely are the ones that have been able to afford to implement those types of features. Things like budget management or the multiple users per account. A lot of capabilities that are not typical in many other e-commerce platforms, and also the fact that B2B Commerce Cloud, you're focused on continuing listening to that customer base and continuing to improve. Those are the things that I find really exciting about the platform. Trevor, what would you add? I'm sure I missed things.
When the customer record is central to the application, that's your ERP customers and customer hierarchies that really drive personalization. It drives, we'll call pickup, it drives complex pricing, it drives inventory and some of your fulfillment rules. And when that is at the center, that's where it all kind of makes sense. And that's where reporting and analytics should be about the customer and tie into the user. But I think that's the key. There are other platforms that have been B2B focused. I don't know if any have been doing it as long as we have, specifically in terms of the track record in our platform. But I mean, really, to me, one of those exciting things is really the combination of Episerver and B2B Commerce Cloud and Optimizely that are now, it's not just the the core product we have that advanced product management, we have native mobile app, and we have the analytics, but also Optimizely for experimentation. We've already bolted on the AI product recommendations to integrate right into our solution, content recommendations. And it's really that kind of intelligence cloud and experimentation that even more broadly give us capability within the platform. So,
Yeah.
from the core B2B to the expanded, platform that not everyone's going to use right now, but going into this, like if you're replatforming, I'd be thinking about in 3 years or 5 years, where am I going to be sitting? And do I have to replatform again? And, the hope is that no, like, because
Right.
that's a major investment, and that's not necessarily driving your bottom line to get some of the base cart and integration things set up. You want to be in 3 to 5 years doing more differentiating things even than what you are doing now and maintaining that edge for your business.
Yeah, I love that point. Back to the idea of not trying to boil the oceans. Maybe, initially you're focused on those B2B sales or B2B self-service that you're offering to your customers, but really thinking about what's your overall journey, where are you headed, and how you can create more of a personalized experience for customers to really enable you to continue to innovate digitally. And such a great point about the integration of additional features around experimentation and content and machine learning that are available through Optimizely. Those are also reasons I get excited about how we're able to continue to innovate for customers. A B2B commerce cloud is a SaaS platform, software as a service. We've run into some organizations who feel like they want to host it on premise, like they want to have it internally, because like either sometimes they're concerned about having their information someplace else, or sometimes it's just they like to have control over it, they're used to that. Or maybe even they're thinking like, we can build this ourselves. We've got some developers on our team, like we'll just build a custom solution. What would you say to them? Why SaaS?
Yeah.
Why B2B commerce cloud?
I just really think carefully about that decision. What I've seen in the market with people going custom, which you can probably get something stood up within a year, probably, right? And again, what you're building can be very bespoke to what your business problem is, or ERP customizations and things you can do. It's still going to be pretty expensive to get stood up, and frankly, a lot of it's going to be on the resource side, but also, again, security and capacity. Are you going to launch in a Azure AWS cloud? Are you going to buy your own hardware? Are you going to have a VMware stack and SAN and all this other stuff yourself, rent, whatever? So you got to manage that, and that is not easy technology. Again, I've been in the space and IT services sector as well, and kind of seen all of that. That's complex in and of itself. Commerce is complex. What really bites you is typically in 2 to 3 years. Now you got to upgrade underlying technology within your commerce platform, or there's security patching, and there's all the other stuff that you have to keep going. And then in 5 years, you may be locked in all of a sudden where you actually can't make changes. And that's, I think, where it bites you. Now you got to bite off a big project because your initial investment was pretty high and you got there, but it hurts in the long term. Now, some people can do it, but I mean, we have replatformed a lot of custom last 3 to 5 years that we've seen and change, and it's been a positive impact for our customers and their business. So that's what I would really think about. Again, someone may be able to prove me wrong. I've rarely seen it right now, and just across the market, frankly, like there have been many of these solutions that have moved from the well, it kind of makes sense for custom to there is so much out there in terms of both what's built out in a more mature manufacturing distributor software market, that frankly, what they have and what you can do within it just makes more sense.
Definitely. I think about, I mean, you referenced it, like you can do it, but like building your own integration to a payment gateway, then you have to maintain that, or in like shipping rates, if things change with their APIs, like you've got all this maintenance you have to do to make sure your stuff continues to work. And then your focus is on keeping your application running, like the technical debt associated with that, versus being able to really innovate and leverage features and functionality that someone else is responsible for building and improving on. That's such the better way to go. So
yeah, well, yeah. And you're focused on that. You got to have cart, and then you got to create just all your right product detail pages and information, and then I want to do user management. I want to have a budget on myself. I want to do some approvals. I got to add punch out, and the technology that frankly it's already there, and that is not in and of itself differentiating, right? You're still building base stuff. You want to build differentiating stuff that is different from your competitors.
Yeah. Focus your time and effort on the stuff that's gonna make you stand out versus the base. One of the benefits of working with Episerver Optimizely is that you're continually investing and improving your product and listening to your customers, adding new features and functionality. Can you tell us about what's coming up on the B2B Commerce Cloud roadmap?
A couple things that I'm excited about. So first of all, there's a smaller feature that's called sales rep list management. We have management where the customer can manage lists and share it within their own company, and sometimes sales reps do that on the front end as well. You can also manage lists from the admin console where marketing can go in and share out to specific customers and kind of have notes and kind of really manage it holistically. We're going to add another level around sales reps where that sales rep can go in and all the customers that the sales rep is assigned to, they can manage list sharing. That is a great adoption driver, first of all.
Yeah.
Great for expanding share of wallet within those customers, because a lot of times customers do not know all the products you create. And the value of the sales rep is actually showing what's compatible, packages, new products, things like that. The other one being around vendor managed inventory. So we've done our native mobile app is up in place, the quick order on a native mobile app, and we have all the customer data, but we're combining that so that customers that do manage inventory at their customer locations or the customer self-reporting, that you can set up minimum and maximum levels for that customer warehouse for this product. And you can manage that, but also use the native mobile app to go through, scan a bin, log exact inventory at the time, and then it compares it to create an order. There's some things you have to do with offline ordering capability on the native mobile app, things around the management of those lists and authorizations. But we have a lot of customers doing that today, a lot that are moving into it. This is providing a device agnostic solution that's already connected. It'll still have that ability to be modified as well. Those are two things. I mean, more broadly, I mean, search is something that we're always focused on. Our expanding CMS capabilities, our brand new React CMS, and just overall kind of continuing to march. That's a couple things I'm excited about.
Yeah, it's very exciting. When I think about vendor managed inventory, I just think about overall how organizations are orienting themselves around providing more value to their end customers, how they're providing a higher level of service to really be kind of stickier, create that loyalty and value add. And that's really exciting to have that capability as a part of B2B Commerce Cloud.
I think it's important for people to know the process an organization uses when they're building out a roadmap. Trevor, can you give us any insight as to how Optimizely and specifically on your B2B Commerce Cloud product has approached their roadmap?
Yeah, so we have customer advisory boards for our manufacturers and a separate one for distributors. So first of all, understanding those needs and keeping the key roles, like I said, around marketing, technology, sales, and e-commerce, really a broad representation across each vertical. In addition to that, a ton of research, frankly, into just where the market is headed and things that we can build that makes their job easier. I'm talking to our product team is doing their research. We're getting data from prospects, from existing customers, and then just broader epi and kind of our thinking about where this market is headed overall and how we can help them. So with that kind of input, right, both what people are thinking about, but what they're not thinking about, and kind of how we can attach and kind of bring in those pieces. Trying to eat our own dog food too, in terms of Optimizely and experimentation, and understand what features are being utilized. I mean, we're really analyzing kind of what's effective today, but also what should we be A/B testing more broadly, and kind of what customers can use. And that, as a company, both in the name change and the acquisition and going forward, is I think going to be a key piece of the roadmap development.
We had Julian Dawkins on Exploration Tech a few weeks back talking about your customer advisory board at Optimizely. And before Insight was acquired by Episerver, Insight had a very strong customer advisory board. Listening to your customers has always been a part of your DNA as an organization. And I just think that's such a powerful driver And to your point, the other pieces too, in terms of research and data, but I really love that customer focus that you have as an organization.
Well, we are running a little short on time here. Before we go ahead and cap off the session, is there anything that you guys would like to put a bow on or tie up in terms of this conversation, Lori or Trevor?
Well, sure. I mean, I just say, like, when you're kicking off, having an understanding around requirements and your business. Don't let software dictate what you need. Let your business and what you need. It's not reinventing the wheel here, but also your business is unique because of the things that you've been doing. You kind of keep customers. Really understanding that first is hopefully going to help ground and expanding your knowledge of what's needed overall for what you're building. That, along with your key drivers, again, is it new customers or is it retention? Is it share of wallet? Is it operational efficiency? Is it about your brand awareness? What are like the top 2-3 things that you're really trying to drive, which are going to help bring prioritization into this process overall? That's what I would just say, like, as far as, if I'm trying to get started, some customers, prospects that we talk to, they've hired someone from the outside who's done it before. Some are just talking within their industry and talking with people who've done it before and gotten real examples of what worked, what didn't work, and how that was implemented. Lori?
Yeah, I love that. Well, I just want to come back to one of your earlier points around, like, thinking about a platform that you're going to be with for the long term, and just excitement over some of the many things that are available today through Optimizely in ways to expand a product once you get up and running, but also the reality that as an organization, Episerver, now Optimizely, has always been focused on looking for what's the next thing that's going to add value to our customer base. So just knowing that there's work being done on your behalf to enable you to continue to innovate and grow with digital. The other thing I would say is that if you're an organization who is not entirely certain how to purchase this or to make these decisions, one of the things that I love about B2B Commerce Cloud is that because of your experience in this industry and space, your sales process really helps customers to understand those requirements and what they want to do and what their goals are, and helps lead people through that process. So I think that's a great way to go to engage in some sense, kind of to learn more about themselves too in the process, and more about your product. So
yeah, I really think it's about fit on solution, what you need, and it's who you want to live with, right? I mean, because that, like, in software now, whether regardless of hosting or whatever, your ability in which to incorporate new stuff, because security is always concerned, everything else is just got to be there.
Well, for anyone in the audience that's looking for some of that additional support, we want some help digging through some of these requirements, and we'd be more than happy to support you in that. You can reach out to us via our website, brillianceweb.com. We'd be happy to walk through some questionnaires we have in place that can help you put together some additional insight requirements as you're digging through this process. Special thanks to Trevor Pope for taking time to join us today. This was an excellent session. We'll be following up with the recording very shortly here. Have a great day, everybody.